Captain, you're alive!
I did everything that I was asked.
A deal with New Eden is a deal with the devil.
It's the only one on the table.
And when we tried to be reasonable, you thought it'd be a good idea to stir up the pot.
I have kept us all alive and safe within these walls, not the old man! Me!
I knew that you would bring salvation.
Everything was normal until they went up north. Maybe it's time we ask them freaks some questions.
Far Cry New Dawn. If you haven't heard of this game, I really wouldn't be surprised. It's practically a really big standalone DLC for Far Cry 5, featuring a revamped map that has less to offer than the original. I picked this game up about a year after its release. I sunk about 42 hours into it before I stopped playing. I finished the campaign and did many of the side quests, but besides a few moments from the story and some gameplay elements, I really didn't remember much about the game. I've been a fan of Far Cry games for a while now. I love playing through Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon 4, and even 5. All the games had memorable characters like Voss, Jason, Pagan Min, AJ, and even Joseph Seed and his little seedling family. Weapons, locations, and vehicles also cemented themselves into those same memories, so it was really strange to me how I forgot so much of New Dawn. I realized the only way to find out why was to play it again and figure out what it was about the game that left such an impression, or rather the lack of an impression. In the first cutscene, we find out what happened after the nuclear ending in Far Cry 5. The world went boom, humans hid in bunkers, and after about 6 years, life evolved and it was safe to return to the surface. The survivors gathered, built a home, and then were introduced to the big bad of this game, the Highwaymen. These guys aren't your average post-apocalypse raider group. No. These raiders are special. They wear pink. In fact, they don't just wear it, they put it on everything. I can't tell if they're just obsessed with the color pink or if every other color of paint was burned away when the bombs dropped. I like it when a game has a theme, but I also enjoy it when that theme isn't taking up the entire color spectrum. Anyway, the premise for our arrival in Hope County is that after the Highwaymen take over, the settlers want them gone, so they send Carmina Rye out in search of Thomas Rush and his group of settlement builders, with the hope that they can expel the Highwaymen for the lands and rebuild their home prosperity. Of course, like all games, our mode of transportation, in this case a train, is attacked and explodes. The game begins with this troglodyte flicking on a lighter and seeing that we're alive but stuck under a metal shelf, and does what any reasonable person would. He screams at us to get up without providing any assistance whatsoever. Rush kicks in the door and tells the troglodyte, whose name is Barnes, to help us up. After that, it's the tutorial where we learn how to move our character by sneaking around, but we are eventually caught and have to fight the Highwaymen. While trying to escape, a sandstorm blows in and we make a run for the river, but a collapsed bridge stops us from continuing. I introduce you to our real big bads, Mickey, the only one who didn't get the memo to wear pink, and Lou, head squisher and mother disappointer. Barnes tells these two that Rush can help them build up settlements, to which Rush replies,
Go fuck yourself.
Okay.
Having pissed off the head squisher, Barnes' head is promptly squished. And Rush pushes us off a bridge and we fall into water. We then meet up with Carmina, craft a gun, shoot a gun, enter a cave, leave the cave, and finally, we arrive in Prosperity. After arriving, Carmina tells her mom that it's her fault an entire train of people are dead, and then we eat whatever this is. Carmina's mom, who's Kim Rye from Far Cry 5 by the way, tells us that we need to find brave people and build a force to stand against the Highwaymen. She proposes the idea that our character knows their way around a gun. I don't know how she figured that out, because our character doesn't utter a single word through the entire game. After the pep talk, we changed clothes, which included putting on sunglasses and nothing else. We then go over to Kim to figure out how to build up Prosperity. She tells us that we need to find specialists, people with expertise to help us stand a chance against the twins. And we need Rush, because without his knowledge of settlement building, we won't be able to make Prosperity better. Being released into the open world for the first time, I immediately started heading over to this Fang Center building to collect the old belongings of a person mauled by a bear. On the way over, Carmina's AI had some struggle deciding if it wanted to hold a gun or not. Once arriving at the Fang Center, I realized my loot was locked behind this door, so I rang this bell and my keycard came running to me. Unfortunately for her, Carmina couldn't stand against the might of the beast and perished as a result. After a hefty fight, I slew the beast and gathered a keycard from deep within its bowels. I went to the locked door and collected my loot. Now is a great time to talk about treasure stashes, a returning mission type from Far Cry 5. Your goal couldn't be more simple. do puzzles, and profit. These missions are actually very enjoyable and have a nice range of different types. Anything from killing a bear to burning people out of mystical fire so their souls can allow you into the mystical treasure cave of mystical treasure. These missions stand out a lot more in this game because it adds a new layer to the post-apocalypse world. It feels more like you're digging up and finding the remnant of an old world, whereas in Far Cry 5, it felt a lot more like you were breaking and entering into someone's place to get some nice cash. While doing another treasure hunt, I heard a plane flying overhead. Wait, what is this? A box? This happens from time to time. Highwaymen fly above and drop a supply package full of materials. It's a small boost and worth doing if one drops by. Though you do need to act fast because you're not the only one looking to get your hands on some sweet loot. As the game progresses, the highwaymen advance their ways of getting to these packages. Some of the later ones I did had highwaymen dropping out of a helicopter to get to the airdrop. It's a fun side activity that helps keep the pace of the game up while providing you with some useful benefits. Speaking of providing you with some useful benefits, allow me to introduce you to this man. His name is Little Dickhead. So, who is the Little Dickhead? Well, formally, he's a scavenger who loots corpses and collects their stuff in his large pack. God, that is appalling. At least I wait until their bodies are gone before I start stealing their stuff. Fortunately, you can correct this little mistake by gently sending him to the afterlife and stealing the stuff for yourself. Unfortunately, Little Dickhead likes his life and loot a little too much to hand it over willingly, and unlike his highwayman counterparts, he'll throw down a can of smoke and try to escape before you can kill him, so you better act with some haste. Next I set my sight on some liberation. Outposts in New Dawn are unique to say the least. Some like the pantry are a reskin of an outpost from Far Cry 5, while others like the garage are new. The outposts are very distinct with their own locations and buildings, one of the most memorable ones being the island because it's exclusively on an island. The only way to get there is by water or air, which creates a unique challenge of how to go about tackling the outpost. Otherwise, I'll admit, the locations and structures are unique, but some of the outposts feel remarkably similar. Once the broken fort was liberated, I gained some ethanol. The economy and progression in this game is different from other Far Cries. In this game, you are hunting for resources, not money. There are a lot of different resources you can find, and some like the components and duct tape are quite common, while others like titanium and circuitry are quite rare. Ethanol and copper wire are both unique resources because with the exception of copper wire being used to make throwing knives, both resources are only used as a form of currency. Copper wire is for trading and ethanol is used for upgrades. Trading resources and getting weapons also works completely differently in New Dawn than in the rest of the Far Cries. In New Dawn, you can hunt for different animals and sell them for different components. Generally, the tougher the animal is to kill, the better the resource, and the more of that resource you'll get from trading. You can also buy normal ammo, special ammo, and explosives at a trader. The new weapon system is quite enjoyable, and I would go as far to say that I prefer it to the normal kill enemy, make money, buy a gun system. But I would also say that New Dawn's weapon system works perfectly with New Dawn's structure, and I don't think it would work as well in some of the other games. Because the world has been blown to smithereens by RTX ray tracing Snotman, money is a thing of the past, as are many weapons. So now you get to make your own. Using the resources you've collected, you can craft weapons from 4 different tiers, yellow being the best that requires a lot of resources and some high tier resources to craft. I love the design of each weapon. Many of the lower tier weapons looks like a really worn version of a gun from Far Cry 5, because they are, but take the 1911 for example. It's rusty and dirty, paint scraped off it in different spots, and when you reload it, it looks like you have to jam the magazine into the gun, rather than it smoothly sliding in. The sniper rifle has a flashlight as a scope, and the rifle looks like it's practically duct taped together. As far as the weapons, yeah, the design team did a fantastic job. And as you get better weapons, some start to look more like new, properly made guns from before the blast, but others also still retain that makeshift look. The vehicles work in a similar way, but instead you need springs to craft them and some high tier resources to craft the yellow tiered vehicles. I didn't enjoy the vehicle design so much. Mainly this car, and the Blood Dragon car I like the look of. The rest of the vehicles follow a similar pattern. Great paint and rust to make them look old, which is nice, but because most of the vehicles are highwayman vehicles, many designs follow a metal welded on in a covered spray paint look, which made many vehicles blend together and look the same. Once I developed a half-decent arsenal, it was time to free Rush from the grasp of the highwaymen. After removing the guards from this world and searching for the key, I found Rush wrestling with a man. We took a stroll to Prosperity, and once there, Rush told us that without specialists we wouldn't be able to build up Prosperity. Then we gave him a yoga lesson.
Go.
Next up are Specialists. These guys are really something. Specialists dramatically change the way you play the game. They excel your own and Prosperity's abilities to... What? Wait, hang on a second. What do you mean they do fucking nothing? Yeah. Here's about what you get when you do a Specialist mission. You can listen to their radio message on the map where they say their name.
This is Felony. Like felony?
You go to them, you do whatever it is they need you to do, like grab this potato sack of herbs that is apparently a year's worth of homegrown stuff, or listen to this baby blow up highwaymen.
That's right, little buddy, you get some!
Or maybe compete in a derby course. Then they say they'll go back to Prosperity and help you out.
Remember I mentioned the reach around your back? Well, I'm gonna set up Wikibeania HQ and Prosperity starting now!
That's it. It allows you to upgrade Prosperity once you have enough, which in turn means you can level up your different base stations, but the Specialists themselves do nothing. I suppose since we're talking about Specialists, we should talk about the base stations they're associated with. Each station has 3 levels you can upgrade to, providing better stuff each time you upgrade. With weapons and vehicles, you get access to the next tiers. The Infirmary gives you more health, that sort of thing. Let's go over each base station quickly, shall we?
The weapon station lets you craft weapons, the garage lets you craft vehicles, the infirmary increases your health, the training station makes followers better, the explosive station lets you craft better explosives, the healing garden gives you different herbs to make stuff out of, and the cartography station gives you different maps.
There's one more station called Expeditions. This station gives you access to a pretty good mechanic called fast travel. At later tiers, you can even jump from a helicopter if you want. I'm not sure why you would, but I'm sure it's fun. Okay, that's not all this station does. The other thing that it does is give you access to the expedition missions. I really enjoy the design of these. The way these missions are structured is you fly in Roger's helicopter to a different map. Yes, you go to a different map. You need to grab this yellow package marked with pink smoke. When you grab the package, head over to a pickup point, wait for the helicopter to arrive, and leave. These missions are actually a pretty good time. Leaving the map to explore other locations gives a nice break and allows you to go sightseeing that isn't in variations of pink, green, and brown. Plus, you get a lot of supplies from doing them. Later in the game, they become extremely useful for collecting enough supplies to build the high tier guns. Okay, now that should be everything covering the resources. Oh, wait a second. I forgot about ethanol. Okay, let's speedrun this. So there are 3 main ways of getting ethanol, those being outposts, airdrops, and trucks. We've talked about airdrops and outposts, but we haven't yet talked about the trucks. What kind of trucks, I hear you asking? Well, ethanol trucks. To get the ethanol, simply capture the ethanol truck and drive it to the nearest outpost you can reach without it going boom. But there are 2 other trucks you can find roaming the wastelands, but these 2 don't give ethanol. The first being a supply truck. After taking out the driver, you can go up to this lever and give it a pull. Then you can seal whatever resources are lying inside. The second one is a prisoner truck. Kill the driver and go to the back to release the prisoner, and upon doing so you'll get a perk point. The last 2 major systems to go over are the follower system and perks. In New Dawn, there are 8 different followers you can get through missions. Each has their own type, basically saying this one's good at dealing lots of damage, this one's super stealthy, and so on and so forth. The more you use your followers, the more kills they can rack up, and at certain milestones they get abilities. These just make them a little stronger or give them an ability. I have to be honest, I found very little use for followers. They're okay. They'll help you fight as well as pick you up if you go down, but I always found it easier to just fight on my own. As a result, almost every follower I collected ended up dying almost immediately. The only one who didn't was Timber, because, you know, dog. Perks in New Dawn are similar to that of Far Cry 5. You can find perk points, like in treasure hunts or prisoner trucks, or you can earn the perk points through challenges and then you can unlock from this selection. There are some good skills in here, like the grappling hook to let you swing around and climb stuff. There's also hot wire, so if you steal a highwayman car, it doesn't explode and kill you. And of course, my favorite, upgrade melee weapon capacity. This skill single-handedly turned me from the gun-wielding savior of prosperity into the unstoppable force known as Shovelman. The perks are good. There's a nice selection, and the more that you have, the stronger you'll be. But a decent number of them are just stat upgrades or a one-off skill like fishing or a nude takedown. Okay, with the main game systems out of the way, it's time to talk about the story. To give you a mostly spoiler-free gist, Prosperity ends up needing to seek out New Eden, the remnants of Project at Eden's Gate from Far Cry 5, for help. And God gives us superpowers to take on the Highwaymen. If you don't want spoilers, skip to the time on screen. Still here? Alright, I won't be diving too deep into the missions themselves or their mechanics unless something really stands out, but I do want to take a closer look at the story because even for the Far Cry series, this is weird. Once we upgrade Prosperity, we all get together in celebration, a celebration that is cut short by the Highwaymen. They've come to teach us and the settlers of Prosperity a lesson, and as far as villains go, they do this in a pretty good way. They are here to attack and scare everyone, but they do not want to kill us.
I think we should just kill them. No. Hold on. We don't want any martyrs here.
If they kill our character, then we become an idol, something to influence the fighting. But if they show that we are weak, then the people won't believe in the cause, and the fighting should die down. After the attack, Prosperity is in shambles, it's just hanging on by a thread. Rush suggests that we seek out New Eden, the remnants of Far Cry 5's enemy, Project Eden's Gate, or the Peggies, for help. Kimrai is completely against this, and that makes sense. If you're unfamiliar with Far Cry 5, the Peggies were led by Joseph Seed and the rest of his little seedling family, and they terrorized Hope County and its residents before the bombs fell. Joseph Seed is actually the one who set off the bombs and plunged the world into chaos. So Kim may be right when she says that a deal with Joseph Seed is a deal with the devil. But as Rush says,
it's the only one on the table. Whatever they have, whatever their secrets, we need it.
Are you okay? Did he hurt you?
The bearded man? He was just giving me some food.
If he ever shows up here again, you come straight to your mom and me. Do you understand?
I'm hungry. He said we have to find food wherever we can.
Yeah, but we don't take anything from him, not even food.
Why?
Because we knew that man before you were born. He did some very bad things. He hurt your dad and tried to hurt our family.
Hey, you see him again, you run away as fast as you can. You hear?
Go on inside, honey.
She's got to learn. We do not accept help from the Peggies.
when we arrive at the New Eden compound, we're turned away by this man in a mask. An apparition of Joseph points us in the direction where it all began. This means that we went to the bunker where the main character from Far Cry 5 starts, and we need to find one of the Peggy Bibles. At the beginning of this video, I stated how New Dawn was basically a standalone DLC for Far Cry 5. And that is due mostly in part to the reuse of the map, and also because New Dawn's story ties so heavily in with Far Cry 5's. When we return with the book, we're granted access to New Eden, where we meet the current leader, Ethan, son of Joseph Seed. He's very unhappy that we found the book. A prophecy foretells that the one who finds the book will one day lead New Eden. Ethan has searched for the book, but we're the ones who found it, and the people of New Eden know that. Realizing that the only way to stay in power is to shatter the people's view, Ethan sends us north to find proof of his father's death, telling us that some time ago Joseph ran to the north, and Ethan believes him to be dead. The return is that if we find proof of Joseph's death, New Eden will help Prosperity in the fight against the Highwaymen. So we need to do a mission where we cause a gas leak and start a fire to be permitted north by the people. So that's what we do. We take a boat ride north. Eventually we meet up with a dam with a cabin next to it, where we find none other than a very much alive Joseph Seed. Joseph explains to us how he saw our face in a dream, and that God has a plan for us. He then explains how this tree on the dam is God's gift to New Eden, giving them the strength to press through famine and pestilence. He told us that when he partook in the gift, he had to fight a ravenous beast that was his soul, and that he believes us to be worthy of the gift, but we must fight our beast too. So we eat the apple, we have to fight a bear that I guess is representative of our soul, and then we activate beast mode to punch the shit out of it until it dies. And when we awaken, we have superpowers. Yes, you heard that right. This Far Cry game has superpowers. This is the last real feature I'm going to talk about, so congratulations. If you're still watching, you have exclusive information that anyone who skipped past this part doesn't know about. Probably. You get 5 new skills, the first being Leap of Faith, which is just a double jump. Next is Ghost, where you are able to become very sneaky and hard to detect. After that is Wrath, where you gain increased speed, melee damage, reduction to the damage you take, and you become immune to knockdowns. Second to last is Eden's Touch, which works well with Ghost so that when you perform a takedown, you get more Eden's Gift, which is this little yellow bar that goes down as you use Ghost and Wrath. And you'll get some health back as well as looting your victims automatically. And the last is Eden's Gift, which just increases the recharge rate of Eden's Gift, that little yellow bar. We return to New Eden with Joseph. Ethan is already giving his father's eulogy. I guess he didn't think we were going to return. And Joseph gives his inspirational war rally and informs us that he has sent his chosen to fight the highwaymen during the day. When we return, Rush goes out to do recon and gets captured by the twins. This results in us having to save not only Rush, but a bunch of hostages that the twins captured. When we go into the building with the twins, Rush is tied up and they want us to handcuff ourselves. It's basically a choice to either listen to their directions or have them handcuff us by force. I refused and Lou shot Rush in the head. While beating me up with the head squisher's helmet, they tell me that there's no hope, no future for me or anyone in Prosperity. Before they get a chance to kill me though, I go beast mode and beat them up, before then getting shot out of a window. One thing I want to cover is that no matter what you choose, Rush dies here. If you handcuff yourself, Mickey just tells you that things could have ended differently if you listened to them. There isn't even a branching path, just some different dialogue. Because Rush dies both ways, there's no weight held on the player. The player never gets to know him, and because of that, Rush's death isn't even that sad, because he never had any chance to develop. Now, if he had been saved if you were obedient, the story could have taken a turn where you work with Rush to take down the twins. That in turn could have led to his character being more developed and allowed the player to get to know him. Plus, there would be a lot more impact on his death because a stubborn player would never get to see that side of the story.
Michelle, Louise, I need you to listen to me.
Why? You're not coming with us.
I don't have a choice. Your father...
Daddy says if you're not with us, you're against us.
It's not that simple.
Yes, it is. Gotta go, Mom. Dad's here.
Michelle, you two need to take care of each other, because your dad, he won't. He has a lot of big plans, but everything he does ends in violence.
Dad solves problems.
He creates them. He leaves a trail of bodies behind him. He doesn't care who gets hurt. Don't end up like him. Promise me you won't be like him.
Sure.
From here, the next few missions are in an effort to get close enough to the twins to kill them. We do that through this guy, Irwin Smalls. He has us prove ourselves and get him out of debt to the twins by fighting in the arena. Irwin comes up with a plan to get us close to the twins. There's a derby hosted each year for a gathering of high-ranking highwaymen. The winner of the derby gets to eat a feast with them. That includes Mickey and Lou, but we need to get in the roster. So we go to the prison to kill the warden Frank, and when we do, we take his place on the derby roster. We compete in the derby, win, and then we go to the feast. Lou compliments me on a great performance, and Mickey tells everyone that they can't stay long because of some new developments. And you'll never believe this. Ethan! Yeah, great twist. The guy who can't have the power fruit turns to the villains because they're the only ones strong enough to take it for him. Anyway, Ethan wants the highwaymen to burn New Eden down. Then he'll give them the fruit, so Mickey and Lou leave to do that, and I grab this gun from the toilet and assassinate everyone in slow motion. I guess slow-mo was another power I got from the fruit that only activates this one time? You know, that would have been really helpful for saving growth. I remember the last time I played, the fight with the twins was actually very difficult, so much so that I had to leave the mission and get new weapons to fight them. This time I entered with Wrath and my yellow-tiered shovel, and at that moment, Shovel Man was born. The twins are defeated and dying on this rock. Mickey tells Lou that she broke her promise to her mom about not ending up like their dad. They laugh about having a good time in the end, and Lou dies. Mickey then talks to us. She tells us that we remind her of her mom, about having hopes and dreams, and about wanting to make things better. In a turn of character, Mickey tells us that Ethan has gone after his father, and that we might have time to stop him. She's in shock that she's still alive, and says we could do something about that, or we can leave her, and she'll leave on her own, and we'll never see her again. I raised my shovel high, and let her go. If you do this, you can return later to find a helmet with a note next to it. Mickey writes that she's gonna head back east to look for her mom. It's a nice conclusion. Now, we make our journey north, to the apple tree. Ethan is there with his father, angry that his father denied him the fruit but gave it to an outsider. So Ethan takes a fruit and eats it. But his soul is not clean, so the transformation goes badly. Joseph asks us to please stop him, so we follow Ethan to a cave. Apparently, if your soul is not clean, then instead of becoming a shovel god, you become Bigfoot. So, who wins? Shovel Man or Bigfoot? Well... Once Ethan is defeated, he apologizes to his father and asks for forgiveness. Ethan dies, and Joseph cries.
Why can't I have one?
You know the answer.
But I want to be strong, like you, Father.
This gift can be dangerous. And I don't want you getting hurt, Ethan.
Well, what about when I grow up?
Not even then.
But why? I want one.
Because it's not God's plan. Do you understand me, son?
You're an old man. And when you die, I will take one.
In the final cutscene, Joseph burns the sacred tree, and he tells us how he thought he knew God's plan, and that we are God's shepherd, not him. He tells us that he is a monster that only spreads suffering and death, and that there is no redemption for him. He grabs our hand that is for some reason holding a gun, and tells us to give him God's justice. But by now the transformation is complete. I am Shovel Man. I cannot use a gun.
Release me! Release me!
But I still have one last shovel. There we have it. Far Cry New Dawn. Is this game bad? No. Is it flawed? For sure. I genuinely enjoyed a lot of the mechanics that this game has to offer. The hunt for materials to craft weapons, the expeditions, and of course the superpowers. The gameplay itself is actually really enjoyable, and if it were just that, then I would 100% recommend it. But the story, while not being the worst I've seen, is messy. The characters are not fully developed, and the plot just feels more like a conclusion to Far Cry 5's story than anything else. Going back and exploring the ruins of Far Cry 5's map is cool, but after a little bit of playing, the colors blend together in a way that makes the rest of the map feel and look the same. If you're interested in a different style of Far Cry, one that will grant you many hours of fun with new weapons, creative mechanics, and fun super abilities, then yeah, I could definitely recommend this game. But if you're looking for the full Far Cry experience, then I would recommend looking at 3, 4, or 5. All three of those games go on sale for reasonably cheap and have a lot to offer. Far Cry New Dawn is not a bad game, but it is a game that deserved its own identity, and its abundant ties to Far Cry 5 ended up bringing it down in the end.